Hello, my name is Jana Skokan. I'm the co-founder of Frogeex. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining our Frogeex YouTube channel today. If you like the content that we're sharing and the ideas that we're discussing, please like it, comment on it, and share it. And most importantly, come and join us on our live events. You have the opportunity to discuss with experts, exchange with like-minded people, and expand your perspectives all around topics related to sustainable building, sustainable living. And I also want to encourage you to click the little notification bell, subscribe to our channel, and never ever miss another episode of Frogeex Green Tech Talks in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great day. So welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for joining this Frogeex Green Tech Talk today. Thank you very much, Chris. Nwachukwu. I'm hoping. Can you please?
Nwachukwu.
So I'm going to learn it, I'm sure. And yeah, nice to have you on the call today. Today we have the topic of ecological consciousness, which is a quite intertwined topic. For many people, it's very close to their heart. Many people just don't understand what the term is about. So it's a great pleasure to have an environmentalist today on the call, Chris, which is going to be our speaker and share with us more knowledge around, what's the structure, what's behind ecological consciousness, what is it based on, and how is it connected also to indigenous knowledge and in indigenous wisdom, which we tend to hear a lot about. And before we go into the full details of whom Chris is and, what is it all about, I would just quickly share the presentation. And let's deep dive on the deck that we have today ready for you. So let me know if you see the screen okay. Is it good? Does it work with the presentation? Perfect. So great. Now, I would just start with these type of images. For those of you which know Chris, I just made a little selection on his type of contributions, which you see regularly on his profile. So basically, this is, I would just let it sink in for a moment, just, digest what you see. It's very diverse. And yeah, some of them are, over here you see mother whale feeding her baby. Over here, this is a trunk of a tree, which is a super interesting shape. I mean, looks almost like a human face, like an old wise man. Interactions of animals, art that is reminding us on the connection to nature, how we utilize the fruits of nature, of what we can harvest, what we can use for our production. Over here, we have a beautiful special species called the dead man's finger or something like this, of mushrooms, of fungi. You are on mute in case. Fungi, exactly. And yeah, over here we have a piece of art also a little bit highlighting the connection or the type of perception of the natural world, or also, some types of pragmatic tips around how is nature behaving in terms of, spreading a certain species, or, what are the elements of their life, or, the nature of cooperation, or, daily activities, which you see in some of the species around us, like here, the bees. I'm not quite sure how is the phenomenon called, or this activity, how is it, but it's, would you like to share with us, Chris?
Yeah, can you recap the last statement you made?
So the bee activity which we have over here.
That's called festooning. And it's, yes, festooning. So it's the way you find this. It's one of the activities that takes place when the bees are trying to build a new hive. So they do this to have a form of teamwork through the construction process of the beehive. So it's a kind of very nice skill we can also learn from the bees, how we can use teamwork to achieve beautiful things together.
Definitely. And also, I mean, when you see the last image, which I included on this page, with these little mushrooms on the fingertip, it's like so amazing, and it's so fascinating for me as well. This is why we talk actually today with Chris, and it's a great pleasure to have him on the call. And I'm just going to give you the intro on what is he doing and what type of projects he's working in. And it's super fascinating to see all the details, the genuinity, and the fascinating elements of nature and all its functions that it brings and the beauty it has. So this is why we have also Chris today with us. Now, just to tell you a little bit more about Chris, Chris is a natural lover, an evangelist, a bespoken international environmental advocate from Nigeria, who is dedicated to creating a healthy and sustainable future for our generations. He does this by working within the initiative called the Green Promise Initiative, GPI. It's an NGO on a passionate journey to inspire environmental change, committed to a sustainable future and to bring a shift in environmental consciousness based on passion. So it's a great pleasure to have you today here with us. Tell us more about, again, what is environmental or ecological consciousness, what it's all about, what is it based on, how is it connected to indigenous knowledge, and also how is it connected to potentially education. But let's deep dive on that and let's take it step by step. I would start with this question, just maybe for everybody. Please, you are welcome to unmute yourself. We have a cozy group today, so maybe you can share with us, what does it mean being connected to nature to you? So maybe you can just throw in some ideas. You can use the chat, or you can use just unmute yourself or switching on the camera, whatever you prefer. Ojo, would you like to share what is connected to nature? What does it mean to you?
Okay, personally, okay, aside my tech field, I love, I'm passionate about animals and wildlife, nature very much. And it's, let me say, it's something that is supposed to be part of us. It's something that we are meant to coexist. So if you look at, if you look at the word back, okay, let me quote from the biblical stand, in the beginning when God created everything, he created nature, he created animals, and man and these natures were meant to live together. Man was initially made to care for these things. So, when you look at it and look at what is happening today, the way humans are not being loving to these things, it creates this worry in me, because as somebody who loves these things, I want people to also feel that same connections too, just as I do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Ojo, for sharing your perspective and your feelings. Monica, would you like to share your perspective?
Hiya, yes.
Hello, Monica. Nice to have you here.
Hi.
Would you like to share? I mean, what is why does ecological consciousness talk to you, and why is it important for you? What does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, it's the feeling. So it makes me sad what we do with nature, with animals and plants and deforestation. So it's an anxiety in me that it creates, really. And the other thing is that, yes, we're disconnected with nature, and we don't even see it, and it will destroy us mentally and cities and all. and I'm trying to get the good feeling for nature and feel for nature in a younger generation, because we can actually make them love nature.
Super. So do you educate, or are you involved somehow in education of children, or how?
I'm not an educator.
Mhm.
I study SDGs, obviously, and sustainability, circular economy, and I just work as a volunteer. I've got my foundation, Green Gains, and I get into schools and nurseries hours at the time to have just fun factors with kids. And I have 4,000 square meter property, and it's forest garden. So show them around and show obviously insects and all the native plants, and that's what I do.
Super, it's beautiful. I mean, we will have a section where when we're going to discuss more around, how to revive the connection to nature, or this eco-consciousness in people, or, how do you start the process. So it's beautiful to have you here also, working within this segment. Now, for me, it's, I would also like to connect it to what Ojo and Monica said. It's very similar. It's the feeling of kind of being secure, being part of, something maybe bigger. I'm not quite sure if this sounds funny for some, or somebody cannot. I also spoke to people that have no idea about having this type of feelings or impressions. So sometimes it's a little bit weird, but usually I have the strongest feelings of this type when I go like to the mountains, and I feel like small, compared to big mountains, or enjoying the view, or just lying in the grass. It makes you feel like you are part of the ground or something. So it's a kind of security, and being part of something, like an organism or ecosystem or something. So that's for me. And Chris, what about you before we kick it off?
All right. Sorry. Yeah, what does it mean to be connected to nature? First, the whole life of a human at the initial stage was to understand that you are nature. And so you should be connected to yourself. That is it. And when you understand that everything in the natural environment are connected together, including you, even your body as a human being. You have your hands, you have your fingers, you have your skin, you have your eyes, you have your ears, and all that. They are all connected together to build you as a human being. In fact, when one is at fault, it affects the other. So when you understand that this whole thing are all connected to build you as nature, which you are, you should understand that it's important to take the nature of your body first. It's important you take care of your body. Certain foods you're not supposed to eat, you should stop it. Certain unhealthy things which you do, you should stop it to protect your body, which is nature, and for you to live long. So that if you understand, now taking it to the natural world, which we also view as nature, if we see ourselves as connected to it, some of the problems which we are facing today would mitigate them. Some of them would have just ended a long time ago. If you find out love to fellow human beings, we wouldn't be killing people. There wouldn't be much war. There won't be destructions of our forests. There won't be destructions of our oceans, pollutions, and all this, because we would have solved it, because you know that you are part of it. Thank you.
Super. So everybody has totally different perspective, but recently I was also on a discussion, and sometimes it's like, everybody has slightly different points, but maybe that's also the beauty, because it leaves everybody with some type of area of responsibility. whether it's fear, whether it's respect, whether it's love for everything living, whether it's being part of something like, one unit, a whole piece, whether it's inspiration. I mean, we have seen some artwork, which also Chris is sharing. We have people that are very super inspired by, what nature can do. I mean, when you see just snowflakes, in their structure, and each of the snowflakes is different. It's just very fascinating. And it's also motivating for people to proactively think and act to protect nature as what we have. For some, it's also limits. For some, it's also limits. So maybe that's also something that we can touch upon in terms of, how we can help to incorporate this type of principles of being ecologically consciousness and conscious into, I don't know, planning or policy making or decision making, because it's also a super important part to keep really nature as a backbone of the economy. We have interesting discussions with innovators, with futurists that talk already about, bioeconomy and how it's going to be all great. But it's really about, taking every step, everybody and on every level, doing and rediscovering basically their connection in a different perspective, because that will help somebody else to ignite the activity, the action. So with this, I would just hand over to Chris, if you would like to take it up. And I would just start maybe with a question. I mean, we see, here different pictures of, indigenous communities all around the world, what they face, what they experience, whether it's something positive or, activities, how to basically also generate a new era for them or create a new era for them to live close to nature, but also prosper from this as a community, or communities that suffer basically from the effort of humankind to basically exploit nature and to take out maximum. So Chris, can you tell us more about what are the views on nature? I mean, you talk from the African perspective of indigenous people. I mean, what is it about? Maybe you can tell us more on this.
Yeah, thank you, Jana. And first of all, I'll go indigenous views, and we can understand from their perspective of the natural world. Of course, we all come from different backgrounds, and these backgrounds are what make us indigenous to the people that are living in this environment. And after close study of the natural world, and basically from where I come from, I found out that our people grew with the environment. They grew with their environment, and this made them to become, they had a deep sense of oneness and respect to their environment. So you find out that different foods which these people grew, they are foods that were found in their environment. Different, it motivated them to be able to wear their clothing, the clothing that they wore, and how they do things, their buildings and all that. So because this is what is particular in this environment, and they saw that this is what goes for them. And I know those days when I was young, whenever I go to the village, I see the mud houses. Whenever I go to these mud houses, whenever it's very hot in the sun, and you go to these mud houses, it's very cold inside. And whenever the weather is also cold, and you go into the same mud houses, it's warm for you. So they knew how the environment works, and that was why they lived there. So indigenous African views, they had a holistic perspective about their natural world. And for thousands of years, the indigenous people of these communities, they took care of their natural worlds, their lands, and everything that was found in it. In fact, they had names from it. I can remember one of these caterpillars, which we do see in my place, we call it obia, and obia means visitor. Whenever you see this caterpillar, the indigenous people will tell you then, our fathers will tell us then that today we are expecting a very big visitor. And it's a caterpillar, but they don't look at it the same way we from the modern people look at it. They tell you, oh, a visitor is coming to visit us today. And before you know it, a visitor comes around the house and you be like, what's it? Just a caterpillar. So they knew everything that happened in their environment, and they passed these connections down to several generations. They passed it down to several generations. And one of the reasons they passed it down to several generations was because there was a profound spiritual connection to the earth. That's why even when you go to America, parts of India, you hear some people, they call it mother, some people call it Pachumama, and of course the modern word here today, we call it Mother Earth. So they had deep reverence for it and with humility, because they knew it was able to do what produce for them. So indigenous views were holistic, and African ethics recognized this interconnectedness and interdependentness of all individuals of being, implying that early Africans then, they lived in peace, they lived in harmony with their environment, which was the key of life and well-being to everything that they possess. And they saw that everything they possess had value. Unlike what we are seeing today, we don't really know the value of the natural world today because of the whole separations and the whole disconnections which we have. So, because of this, we've lost respect and oneness to it, and even the components that were found in it. So indigenous people had good intentions of taking care of their environment, and they took care of it, and without an intention to abuse it. It was evident in their cultures, in their heritage, and of course, sometimes the new generation for this whole part of since last year and this year, we've been talking about soil and how the importance, the degrade of soil in the generation. Of course, we all know that COP15 is happening in Africa now, in Abidjan, and the whole, it's centered on soil. When you look at the indigenous perspective on the soil, there was this thing we call it bush fallowing in my place. They leave a land to fallow for some years, and when this land is left for some years, the land grows its own vegetation, captures carbon, make the soil more fertile again. And these indigenous people now go back to the soil again to farm, because they understood that you should leave the farm alone because you've used it for quite a while. It needs to regain its resources, its fertility back, so they can go back again. And you find out also this issue of forest. In our place then, we had some forests which we tagged as evil forest. Of course, that's the notion they had for evil forest. The reason why they call this forest evil forest, we're not actually to tell people, oh, it's evil, don't go there. It was a kind of a way to scare people from destroying the forest. And this forest grew and grew and grew and grew, and it preserved the organisms, the animals that were in this, and nobody was allowed to go to this forest. So if we can actually look at the indigenous perspective around us and the principles that guided them, most of the problems which we face in our generations today would be solved. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, perfect. So, I mean, I was just wondering, because based on what you're saying, Chris, it really goes down to a kind of almost like a spiritual connection, because it's, I mean, you also mentioned or indicated it a little bit. I mean, it's all interconnected, it's all interdependent. It's, I mean, many times we just have the feeling, you know, it's somehow getting lost. So you mentioned also there are some like pillars or values what this indigenous wisdom and the indigenous views on nature are based on. Can you maybe tell us more about what are they? What are these kind of basic pillars which the views on nature are based on here?
I'm so sorry, sir.
No problem.
Yeah, some of the indigenous views and values, some of them were conceptual, and they had I call it visible and tangible beings. Mm-hmm. In fact, the visible are the ones which we can see, which comprises of man, the fellow human beings, which they considered as nature, the animals within their environment, and the plant species, and some objects that do not have biological life, while the tangible, the intangible consisted of God, of spirits, and ancestors, which we could find in some of the trees which we had, for example, some people call them witch doctors, some people call them native doctors or herbalists or so. In fact, when they want to take a particular herb to heal somebody, they understood that every tree in the forest had something in it, whether it's spiritual. They knew very well that this had a being in it. So whenever they want to take it to heal somebody, they actually ask for permission from the tree. You can see that. That's a whole lot of respect, rather than you just going straight. You cut the tree off without doing something. So they ask the tree that, please, we want to use this to heal this person with this infirmity. Can we use it? So and in fact they take it there. So it was a completely unity and solidarity, not to break or to destroy. So the spirits there were made up of super beings and spirit of men who died, and this included their ancestors, which they had. And it differs from different indigenous views all over Africa, and of course in the Amazon and parts of India, and animals and plants, which gave us the reminder of biological life. So in essence, one of the mode of existence, the one mode of existence surpasses others, and which was it manifested in the spiritual aspect of it. So this superseded all. So they had a spiritual connection to it, which made them know that everything that has life has value, and everything that has life has to be protected. And it's not like they, I know within our words today, we're talking about being a vegetarian and vegan and all that. They killed animals, but they knew very well that it was a kind of the web of life, because one species it has grown more than the others. It could affect the life of the other. So of course, during the web of life, they killed some of these animals and ate them. But while doing this, they still knew that these animals were sentient beings, that they had life, and they did it with utmost respect. So in order not to miss the recognition and respect they have with it, they had value and accommodated everything that was in this being. So Africans, we are so much, and indigenous people, they were so much, in fact, environmentally friendly more than us. And we cannot overemphasize it, because of course nothing exists in isolation, whether it's in plants, whether it's in humans, inanimate beings. They form an integrate whole. Yes. So they form an integrate whole, and within the Anthropocene age, when the Anthropocene conception came up, we've seen so far that there has been a disconnection, and then humans became the main being of the system, the main being of the whole system. Instead of you to see yourself as part of the system, we saw ourselves as above every other being that are there, making them to look less important than others. So with this, we can see that the indigenous views about nature saw man, didn't see man at the center of everything. They saw man as part of the whole system together. Thank you.
So it's super interesting when one hears you talking about this, because I mean, maybe some of you also have seen, either, I mean, we know it more, I mean, I have seen it only in movies or documentaries, when you have the opportunity to see, certain procedures or rituals when, for example, people go on a hunt, or get a prey, or yeah, just that they thank, for example, to the animal. I mean, this is really something totally distant now to people that are living in the city. I mean, they think, oh wow, this is so esoteric and totally different world, but actually it shows really the deep respect of another living being, offering or sacrificing their life for another living being to continue. So I mean, it's very fascinating when you talk about this. So I would just continue to the next slide that we have on the presentation, which shows a little bit the variety of indigenous groups. I mean, of course, this is just a very little snapshot of the variety that we have globally. So Chris, based on your experience and also exchanges with potentially, I mean, do you have exchange with other communities globally, for example, from other groups? You mentioned the from Amazon, from communities that are living in Amazon, representatives of there, or from North America, Indian. So what do you have any interaction over there?
Well, I haven't had any interaction with indigenous groups in the Amazon and all that, but I think I've read so much about them and watched, of course, some videos about them and how they lived. And also, most of people which I have had interactions with, it's in Ivory Coast, especially those from the sub-Saharan African place, especially in Ivory Coast, Togo, and Benin Republic, where I have met with most of the indigenous groups that are there. Especially there's this custom called voodoo, which I've seen most of them who practice it, and of course seen so far how they do. And you find out that each one distinct with each other. In Nigeria, for example, Nigeria is multicultural. Nigeria has about 350 indigenous languages and over a thousand dialects. And each indigenous people and culture, it's different from the other. And you kind of you'll be amazed that this is the variety of nature, and it brings us to understand that is why we need to understand how each other sees their own environment, and everything about them, it's still on the resources of their environment, and that's what made them to emerge that way.
Mm-hmm. And do you see also, is it like a pattern also that basically when you are living in such an environment very close to nature, eventually, very close to nature, we can just say so, and you're influenced by the indigenous wisdom, by tradition, which is handed over, for centuries, from generation to generation. I mean, do you see similarities in the approach? I mean, is it like, it's the base is always the same, or are there any variations that you came across?
Yeah, the bases are always the same. Mm-hmm. They're just the same. The only thing I would say I know is that mostly why variations have crept in is because of the Western influence, which has crept in into most of the indigenous views and perspective. Of course, which we now see as people that now call it diabolical. You understand? So they see it as diabolical now, but you'll find out that these things are quite what the religious point of view called it, and this has made scared people about the environment, and scared people to learn what the ancient people knew. There was a quote I made one day. I said, when an elder dies, the whole library is gone. Mm-hmm. So it was something I wrote. I posted one time, and these things makes you to understand, because I knew when we were young, we had what we called rainmakers, but we don't know how they do this. We don't know how they do this rain. And when people are having events, you kind of contract them. When you contact them, you tell them, oh, I don't want rain to fall in my occasion. So what they do, they perform their magic and they hold the rain. So immediately everyone goes back to their respective houses, they release the rain and the rain just falls. It's amazing. And of course, that was a documentary BBC did this documentary on it, and they sent some people to one of the indigenous communities in my area in Anambra State in Nigeria, and they saw one of these doctors who said he was a rainmaker, and to their amazement, he did it. Yes, he did it, and it was captured with camera. So it's quite amazing that when this person, if the children of this person, maybe they are more of the Western philosophy and all that, they could actually not gain the ideas which their father had. And it's gone that way.
So, and what are the kind of key differences, I mean, which you see, or based on your studies and experience, I mean, that you work with the community and also, you know, work with this concept and talk also as a speaker on this topic? What are the key differences when you look at the perception of, you know, looking from a Western point of view at nature and looking from maybe an indigenous, even African nature view?
Yeah. Now, in the looking at the indigenous view and the Western view, one, in the Western view, material, physical world are distant. They are separate from each other, from the spiritual. Now, when you come to the African perspective, everything is fused together. The world of the spirit is the same as the world of the material, and both worlds are one and exist and dwell in harmony and peace. So we look at it at in the Western world. When we grew up, when religion came in, we saw it as, oh, the spirit has a place where they stay. Yes, they live here, they live up, they live in heaven, they live and some stuff like that. But the indigenous people saw then that the spirits abide with us. They are with us. So this promotes this kind of things, brings harmony and respect with everything that is in the world. Now, when you also look at the Western culture, nature is devoid of sacredness, and that has accounted for us where we go on, we rape, we abuse nature and the environment because we do not consider the sacredness of nature. In the indigenous perspective, the environment was seen as sacred, and they were accorded deep respect and positive attention to man. Yes. In the Western world, life is restricted to animate and human beings, whereas there was one of the topics as an environmental educator when we were writing one of our eco books, to teach young people. One of the topics which we formulated was Earth as living. Yes. So in the modern perspective, we do not see the Earth as living, but in the indigenous perspective, they see life in nature. And nature is understood as being intelligent, which demands care and maintenance. Yeah. Now, theories in such as anthropocentrism, biocentrism are adequately pieced in the environmental values of the modern world, whereas in the African and the indigenous perspective, it is not. This is so because all living things in the African subsections have integrate what? Integrate what? This indigenous people, the Bantus, they said they will hold the created things, preserve a bond with one another that surpasses all living things, possess incoherent what? This is basically that Africans treat things as an end and not as a means. Of course, when you look at the Ubuntu philosophy, it said, I am because we are. And since we are, therefore I am. So this is what the Bantus say. And however, despite all the similarities between the Western philosophy of environment and the environmental philosophy of the indigenous people, we find out there are still similarities that exist. There are similarities that exist between them. And this is that both man and the indigenous life still depends on the natural world, the natural environment for all the needs. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is an amazing point again over here, because you see that also when talking, I mean, going into discussions, for example, with futurists, with innovators, even talking about, you know, space travels, etc. So they always come back to the questions which are basic, which are where we're gonna grow food, how we're gonna generate air, how we're gonna produce water, and based on this, it's always going back to, you know, I mean, what is the kind of core that we need for any further activity, which is nature, whether we emulate it, whether we kind of try to copy or, you know, do something that is similar, works on a similar type of technology, if we can call it this way, technology. I mean, nature is a great technology. Soil is a super technology. So it's just amazing how this, as you said, besides or despite all the differences, we still have the one common thing. And yeah, I think we can go to the next part, which is around separation. Around separation. So maybe we can just do a quick one. Chris, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Super.
Here.
So let's go. Would you like to tell us more about, you know, why we have this type of phenomena actually happening, feeling separation from nature, and yeah, where does it come from?
Yeah, separation from nature came up. I think this it came up when we entered the industrial age, where we started running in 1960, which research said that we became more and more distant from nature and its life-giving benefits from the industrial age. And others looked at it that it was during the start of religion and consumerism. And yes, but looking at it from here, one of the parts where one of the issues of separation of nature, it started from religion, and you'll find out that the onset of Judeo-Christian religion, this brought about seeing the natural things as barbaric, and I mean as paganism, and this made us this repositioned us outside nature. And so people do not want to associate with this whole stuff about it. Then consumerism, the consumerism aspect of our lives has also led us to
So Chris, I think we lost Chris for a moment. So maybe we can, meanwhile, just exchange on what we had so far, or what Chris was sharing so far with us. Okay, I see Chris again. I found it fascinating also this the statement which is included in the presentation. We are all born biophilic.
Yeah, I think I'm here back.
You are back. You are. So, we hear you.
Yeah. So this brought us to having the consumerism when capitalism came up, which led to significant environmental degradation. Capitalism encouraged mass consumption, which was unsustainable. And most business owners never had the environment at hand. The only thing they just had was for monetary gain, and they manipulated people to consume more of their product, which led to environmental impact and the rise of anthropocenism, which is the industrial age. So whatever part it's from, it just removed us from nature. And let us understand that every human has an intricate love for life. Yes, that's it. We were all born biophilic, but the age of the anthropocenism brought modern human to become biophobic, and this brought about a sense of a separation, which corrupted our basic needs for inanimate relationship and made us to mistreat life itself. Yeah.
I think that's a really solid point to think about and to let it sink in. But I mean, you see it with the level of destruction. It's just so sad sometimes to witness that and to see what people are basically capable of doing. Of course, you see this kind of brutality to people, so like human to human, but also against the natural world. So it's definitely a point to catch up on. I welcome any thoughts from anybody on the call. In case that would be not the moment for questions, we're going to have a quick wrap up in the end. But let's look at the more kind of positive part, because now we talked a little bit around, where does it come from? What is the kind of structure? I mean, what are the belief systems around this? What is the roots? What is the core of being close to nature? But now, how do you revive that? I mean, we have also Monica on the call working in this field. So Chris, maybe you can tell us more about what you do, or happy if you can exchange or would like to exchange on what you do, what are the concepts that you work with, and how do you influence the decisions and the communities which you work with as the Green Promise Initiative.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yeah. So now there was something. There was this thing called the nature deficit disorder, and this disorder made this kind of concept was brought about when you see people away from nature. There are some kinds of attitudes you see the person put up, and the person becomes less environmentally conscious about what the environment is. Such a person wouldn't even know some particular part about their local environment. They wouldn't even know where their garbage go. Some of them don't even know when it's time for the farming season. Some of them don't even know the grasses that grows on their areas. Some of them don't even know species that are no longer there. And of course, we're in the season of the migratory birds, and they don't even know some of the birds that comes to their environment. They don't even know about them. Some trees, they can't tell you the species of trees in their environment. So that's how you know someone who is really suffering from this syndrome. So now, how do we revive this connection? First is self-awareness. You have to get that true self-awareness, understanding from the indigenous pact, where I said that nature and humanity, our lives are intertwined together. And through self-awareness, one's ability is will become conscious and alert about the environment and understanding your purpose within it. I told my story one time about how I started this organization, and well, I have several years I've known that the environment is what keeps us alive. And until one time like that, I told myself, how would I get, what purpose am I born on earth to do? And the environment, looking at the environment, it gave me a purpose. One night I was just troubled, asking myself, what do I do? And I had this dream about seeing a green figure like that, and it was telling me a lot of things about which I might not really go deep because of our time. And from that dream, I really understood what my purpose is. So when we can understand our purpose within our environment, then we can become advocates for the natural world. One of the problems which we are facing also is because we do not have role models. There are no much role models. When you go to the entertainment industry, we have role models which we keep up, so the fashion industries, but the role models in the environmental fields are they are just very few. So when we become self-aware, you make yourself to become a model for it and become advocate for the natural world. Look at people like Jane Goodall, David Attenborough, and the others. So with this, you recognize the sense of awareness in your ecosystem, and you are able to take a look at the areas which you can improve and be brave enough to work towards real change. So the self-awareness is a state where you become by wisdom and understanding of oneself, ability to recognize your strengths and weakness and commitment for a greater good. So, and also understanding that you are nature. You are nature. So with this, you can revive your connection. When you understand you are nature, just like the intro I gave, microorganisms in our guts helps us with digestion. And our skin alone comprises of so much. Okay, look at the pollinations of bees and wasps that helps to produce the food we eat, and photosynthetic organisms like the trees and the phytoplanktons, and that gives us oxygen. So when you understand all these things, truly you become humble enough to understand that the fate of humanity and nature are intertwined. Are intertwined together. So we need to rethink our choices. We need to rethink our choices by instead of you going to work on car, when you know that your office is just very close to you, you can just walk down and invest in this is green investing now, invest in cleaner energy supplies and use reusable products. So with this and on and off, you reduce your intake of meat. You support local farmers, local businesses, buy pesticide-free foods, start your own community garden and all that. With this, there will become a paradigm shift from ego to empathy, separatedness to synchronicity, fear to courage. And we activate this consciousness, no matter the field of endeavor which you can find yourself, and collective actions, which is today is why we ask our government. Today, our governments have taken over some of the natural systems and they exploit it. So we ourselves, as advocates of this, we should continue with environmental awareness. With it, we make people understand the fragility of our environment and the importance of protecting it. And that is what we do at the Green Promise Initiative. The Green Promise Initiative organization is an organization that we started in 2019 in November, which we want to see how we can inspire environmental consciousness through what we are doing, through awareness, and through working with young people, doing certain projects that when people look at it, it inspires them to get involved with it. And we ourselves becoming role models for the natural, in the environmental space. So we want to build more of role models so people can see them and become inspired. So if the entertainment industry has no role models, the politicians are there and all that, we ourselves should become one and build up. So this is what the Green Promise Initiative is doing. And we work in areas of sustainable living, environmental education, stroke ocean literacy. We work on policy making for the government. We work on reforestation and land restorations. So indigenous people also, which we live, we try to get indigenous wisdom, because this wisdom is important for us to preserve it and also have that. So we are working on seeing how some of these wisdoms we can get, especially wisdoms in agriculture, wisdoms in the buildings. Some of these buildings of the indigenous communities, instead of us to throw them away, we need more modern ways of looking at these buildings and because now people are talking about green buildings. Of course, our ancestors have been living in green buildings that are quite sustainable. So this wisdom shouldn't just go with. So we're engaging them, visiting them, and also learning a whole lot from them. So I think this is just for the Green Promise Initiative. Thank you.
Super, super. Thanks a lot for sharing. I mean, it's an amazing project that you started. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned several elements, what you do in terms of education, you know, working out or helping governments or municipalities or representatives from municipalities to shape, you know, policies or measures. So how do you do this? Do you have maybe some formats that work exceptionally well to engage the community that you use?
Yeah, well, one of the approaches which we use in working is through sensitization and public awareness, and also using the online platforms also to be able to inspire this through impact programs. And of course, in Africa, for example, more of I will look at more of ignorance to the environmental space. It's not like the people actually know much is what is going on the environmental space, climate change, and all that. So it's an opportunity for us to kick off with seminars and talk shows and this things to grow the popularity of the environmental movement so they can get aware with it. And of course, our politicians attend scoop this, scoop that. But the thing there is that they come back, I wouldn't use a negative word here. They come back and they do not really affect the changes of what they've learned from these conferences which they go. So more or less, we don't want to, instead of us to start castigating our politicians and start talking bad about them, rather we should engage with them through policy making. So most of the times, those who are working on certain bills, we want to get knowledge of the bills which they are working on and help support them by adding maybe some few items to the bills and get them to pass these bills to help out, rather than we castigating them. And you know, when you castigate them, of course, you're not doing them any good. You are actually making matters worse. Why not lend a helping hand to them? So these are the things we are doing. And into climate education, we have a huge project which is coming up, which is ocean literacy, because we are in the ocean decade from 2021 now to 2030. So we're looking at how to put in the ocean literacy skills into our basic curriculum for the eco education to young people, using the approaches for learning that is different from what they get from the formal education. It's just like an extra curriculum activities. We go there, maybe doing environmental awareness, setting up eco clubs within this within schools, primary schools, and all that. And from universities, we wouldn't use the approach we're using in primary schools and nursery schools with those in the universities. We try to have seminars with them and also engage them, because these people, when they are inspired, when the university people are inspired, we could have a whole lot of volunteers from them. And of course, it increases our impact whenever we're having programs. For the young people, for the younger generation, the primary school and the secondary school, is good we catch them young for the environment. So this is very, very important. So when you catch them young, you're able to build up this consciousness with them that wouldn't leave them. It abides with them, because it's easy to change the mindset of a child than a mindset of an adult, because this adult has been through, is trying to see how he can make ends meet and all that. But let's build a generation of eco-conscious people, and this is what the Green Promise Initiative is doing.
Super. So, Chris, thank you very much for wrapping up what a Green Promise Initiative is responsible for, what it represents, what it's also forwarding and contributing in terms of saving the planet as what it is, calling it what it is. And please let us know if you have any details regarding the campaign which you're starting on ocean literacy. Happy to support you, of course, within the Frogeex platform. And we're already partners, so it's just an extension, and happy to do so. And also looking at, you mentioned universities and the different approaches from workshops. I mean, we have like a few more minutes maybe before we have, if there is any question from the audience, Monica, Ojo, or, you know, any other points, please let us know in the chat or unmute yourself. Meanwhile, I would just maybe share an example, also a very interesting discussion on an experience of a professor being in front of students, basically talking about climate change. And I was just wondering, I mean, how it's connected to you is she was there talking about the stuff, and the reaction which she got was basically very negative. So the students reacted very negatively because it was just kind of offending, you know, I mean, we are not in charge. And then you tell us all the bad news that, you know, what's going to happen and what are the projections, and actually, you know, you have no power. So the question is, how do you empower this type of communities? How do you empower students that are maybe not in, you know, the position yet because of the age or whatever, to, you know, yeah, what do you do?
The thing there is, it depends on the approach you used. I myself, I'm not a professor. I'm not. I'm someone from an open perspective. I didn't study environmental studies in school, so it depends on his approach. Most of the times, when you're talking to young people, and we know the generations we are, there are certain approaches you should use for them. And this approach makes it much more appealing to them. And of course, the approach we use for younger people, especially primary school people, when you come there, they become worried. Some of them, we get reports that they become worried about their future. And yes, that was a very good sign. Whenever I see people who are worried about their future, yes, that is when I know fully well that they can become the change. So you tell them that you go there, you tell them that, yes, since you're worried about it, now is the time for you to start your own path. So it depends on the approach you use. For the university people, more of volunteerism is what they can do. Of course, the thing with the environmental things are in most of the influences are done by big corporations and the big industries who are polluting it. But I think that we also have our own part to do. We shouldn't look at them, because if we look at what the corporations are doing, it would affect us too. So we too can start, no matter how little you start from. It can make a change to generation.
Great. Thanks for sharing your perspective. Monica, would you like to maybe chip in from your side? I mean, from your experience, what works exceptionally well, also maybe for other people that are eventually starting a project? I mean, I'm also engaged in some activities like this. What are the concepts that work exceptionally well? And from which country are you? Where are you active?
So I moved back from United Kingdom, where I lived and worked and studied for 16 years, and moved back to my country, Hungary.
Okay.
And,
so yeah.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I was just wondering, how is it in Central Europe? I mean, what's the perception of the topic? You know, I mean, how is it? You mentioned you go a lot into schools, nurseries. I mean, what's the perception over there?
To be honest, nature is something that I don't know. We just walk out of our house blocks, and that is nature. So disconnected, the whole Europe and obviously Western societies. That is unbelievable. The apple is in a supermarket. So some kids are just say where the apple comes from the supermarket. So it's hard, and I think that we don't. I always think that we don't have as much time as we need to get people realize what we are in. And with kids, you can only do. I only do playful stuff. They're so interested in everything. So while I'm showing them, for instance, even my 67-year-old mother didn't know how a ladybug looks like when it's a larve. So and as you said, it's I mean, fear of spiders and worms and killing them and get just spray quickly the ants, and the complaining about the ticks that obviously ants would eat and things like that, and it seems small, but it becomes huge. And we teach kids, yes, and it's fine, but the older generation, we can't do anything about. And I started to be conscious about time that we don't have. So I'm trying to get into companies and do their part. And the big companies get many employees, so trying to explain them what nature is, and that's what I'm trying to do. But I always think that I'm just so small, so small to this big world and the big mess we created that it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same boat, because it's just so totally overwhelming when once you are open to see where we are, and what are the consequences, and seeing just how it's everywhere. It's like so embedded in the system, built in, that it's a lot of hard work that we have in front of us. But I would still encourage you. I mean, the best place to also show and connect and to include your services. I like the approach that you go also into corporations, that you go into companies, that you approach them proactively. Are you offering some kind of workshops, or what do you do?
What I do, I as I said, I studied SDGs, and I'm trying to, and obviously the ISO, the 26,000 is here, and Sweden came out with the 2021 version. So what they did, they ISO 26,000, the social and corporate responsibility, got all together with the SDGs. So they try to intertwine them in a way that companies will look at both, and they can actually get some transparency, show the consumers and the obviously government, and to that they do something about it. So how I try to do this is, companies only want profit and make some difference and stay in the market. What I offer them is that, and then transparency. What they give us is the environmental consciousness. So it's a win-win situation, not for, probably at first, not for the right reasons for companies, but I'm happy with that. And obviously, while the company is starting to do that, it's like similar to the quality management systems, the ISO 9001. The company has to get the employees within this, so the employees will learn, and then hopefully with that learning and SDGs and the environment and how we do and what we do, and we don't need to do much if collectively everybody does it. I hope that it will make a difference.
It's amazing, Monica. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's great what you do, and also definitely a place to reconnect. Maybe we can take it offline, would be also Frogeex. So that's the community where you can also make your services available, whether it's in Hungary or internationally. And I think very interesting, the link regarding SDGs and ISO for companies. And as you also said, profitability is high on the agenda. That's quite clear for every business. They need to pay their employees whatever, provide for pay their bills, which is also in a way understandable. But it's one motivation. So I think it's a good entry point, and just starting the curiosity, the journey around what sustainability or being close to nature, being connected to nature can all bring to them as a huge benefit. So yeah, thank you so much. Would there be any other points or any other maybe takeaways, Chris, that you would like to share with us and to the community, for also the listeners after that are having access or will have access to the replay of this session today? Some final conclusions and
Yeah, I can also remember what Monica said when I had a guest from Germany the other time, and when we were going around, he saw one of the trees. He saw an avocado on the trees, and he told me, "Chris, is that an avocado tree?" I said, "Yes, that's an avocado tree." He said he has never seen an avocado tree in his life. So this is actually how the avocado tree looks like, and this is very important for us to note that a whole lot of disconnection is happening in Europe. So we should understand some of this point that life in nature, it's very possible. Nature has a lot of beauty for us to behold, and it's so majesty. And when you look at the miracle of a flower infused in sunlight, you look at the revelation of a tree and sunlight, look at the deep rootedness of a tree in the earth, stretching of its skies, and you are just aware of this whole beauty, and there's a joy in you. So we should understand also that we should not feel that we are outside the earth. We should feel that we belong to the earth, and we are part of the community of this beautiful nature. And we are made of the same substance as nature. What nature is made in the natural world, we are made of it too. So we are not better nor worse than the bird, than the trees, or any other human walking up on the road, on the street. So we should understand that the whole web of life, it's very important, and we are much more connected to each other. So thank you very much. I want to thank my friend and brother Ojo for joining us from Nigeria. He's a member of the Green Promise Initiative. He's actually our IT and media director. And also Monica, I look forward to also meet you also online, also one of these days. And thank you very much, Frogeex, for such an opportunity to be in the show. Of course, we are partners. We see you another time.
Definitely. We see each other later. Also happy to reconnect. Encourage you to follow Frogeex, follow Green Promise Initiative. Monica, drop your, I would like to invite you to drop your LinkedIn connection always into the chat so we can connect and people can connect after the call. If you have not done this, please do so, so that you have the connection to each other, if not available yet. I wish you a very good rest of a Tuesday. Today was a beautiful discussion. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing with us. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ojo. And thank you to all the listeners, all the viewers watching this replay or listening to it. And I see you on the next Frogeex Green Tech Talk, which is going to be next week. And we're going to talk about biodegradables and if they are really so sustainable as what they are promoting to be. And how much okay is it really when you throw them away, to be a little bit, rhyming in the end. So I wish you a very good rest of the day. It was a pleasure. And my name is Jana Skokan. I'm the co-founder of Frogeex, and I see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.